I've been using MidJourney for a while now, and I'm consistently achieving images that I like and that I can realistically use in my interior design workflow. In this video, I'm going to show you how. MidJourney 5.2 is much more realistic than the previous versions. A lot of the crazy details have been resolved and the lighting is much improved. I think there is a place for including an AI tool like MidJourney, especially in the inspiration and ideation phases of your work. So let's jump in. The key to getting the results that you want is by carefully crafting the prompts. I've been inspired by Additive Floats and the way that he broke down prompts specifically for architecture. Following his lead, I've broken down the prompts into specific descriptors that apply to more specifically to interior design. Before we start, remember that the images generated by MidJourney are copyrighted grey area. It's good to always acknowledge your sources. So if you're using images as inspiration or showing MidJourney images to clients, this should be acknowledged. Now that that is out of the way, I think the best way to start thinking about writing a MidJourney prompt is by describing the scene from the more general to the specific, and from the most important details to the less important details. If you've ever studied rendering, photography, or art history, a knowledge of design terminology comes in very handy. However, if you haven't done these, no worries, I'll give you some terms that you can start with. First, we want to set the scene. Most of the images that we are looking for in our interior design work are the kind we see in magazines. These are editorial style images. As Nick suggests, I always start with the editorial style as a prompt. However, if you want to generate an image that is not photorealistic, you can try changing it to a different medium. I've tried pen and ink drawing and watercolor with good results. Second, we want to describe the camera angle to tell MidJourney about the composition of the image. Most editorial images are wide angle, usually photos are taken with a 15mm to 24mm lens, and this is because they want to show as much of the room as possible. When in doubt though, start with wide angle so that you can see as much of the room as possible. Third, we want to describe the overall design style of the space. Words like modern, vintage, eclectic, neoclassical are good words to include. Next, we want to describe the space. What is the name of the room? The bedroom, dining room, loft, barn conversion. This will tell MidJourney what kind of furniture and fixtures to include in that kind of typical room. Next, we want to decide if we want a focal point. If there is a feature we would like to highlight, for example, a fireplace, a sofa, a chandelier, you could also use a compositional description with it, such as symmetrical or rule of thirds. Next, we want to describe materials, and you can be as specific as you like, but I think 2 to 4 dominant materials are enough. Then talk about color. Unfortunately, MidJourney does not recognize RGB or hex codes, so the workaround is to describe the color in detail. I use a color picking tool like Color Picker, and I'll leave a link in the description that describes the color. For example, terms like warm gray or battleship gray will describe a color, but be careful with your words. You don't want a battleship in the middle of your living room. You could also use more generic descriptions such as monochromatic, pastel colors. You could also even try paint colors that are famous, like Farrow & Ball's range, for example. Now, add in some detail. If there is a store style, aesthetic, or designer that you would like to include, you can add it in here. These are quite powerful prompts. Then get into the lighting. If there is a specific time of day, such as morning, dusk, golden hour listed here, you could also add an atmospheric effect such as foggy, hazy, muted. So usually the interior you're creating has windows, so it's good to specify the view, especially if the setting is important. You could use words such as coastal, forest, mountain, snowy to describe the location of the interior. And finally, if the topology is important, add that here. You might want to give your interior some context within a space. You can add some other touches that might affect the result of the image, such as the mood, the camera, or the lens, if you know about photography. For interiors, this is less important, but try it out, you never know. And finally, the last thing you need to do is add the aspect ratio. This determines the size of the image. This command is space, dash, and then the ratio. If you want to use it on your website, you could use the 16:9 ratio. If you want to use it for social media, you would choose the 9:16 ratio. These are small details, but they can affect your results and are worth playing around with. The main thing to remember is to add the details that are most important first, and then work your way down. It's a good idea to save your prompts somewhere so you can reference them later. I keep my descriptors and my prompts in a Notion dashboard, and together with an image of result, they make a good reference. After some time, you'll get a real sense of your style and how you prompt MidJourney to get the results you're aiming for quickly. I use a formula to string these descriptors together in Notion, so you can literally just copy and paste. This is a fun way to use these descriptions, particularly if you're just starting out. Before we go on, if you're liking this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Now, you've got a bit of practice under your belt, and you might want to use a few techniques to vary your images. The easiest way is using the vary buttons. Just choose the corresponding image and click the button. You'll be given another 4 images to play with. After you've spent a lot of time experimenting, you should have built up quite a library, which of course you've saved in your Notion database. What happens if you like bits of 2 images, or you want to introduce an image from another source? This is where you can use the \blend command. Let's see how that works. If you're still working towards the perfect image, let's try adding a wildcard. You can do this in MidJourney by typing --C after your main prompt, the chaos command. You can add a value between 0 and 100, and this determines how varied the 4 images will be. Another technique is to use the stylize command, which is --S. The higher the numbers will create images that are very artistic but less connected to the prompt. So, stuck on how to describe an image? One way that you can learn about how to write a prompt is to upload an image with the command \describe. This results in some very interesting adjectives to describe the designs that then you can add to your descriptor database for use later. If you want to give parts of your prompt more importance, you can use the command. This tells MidJourney to place more emphasis on certain words. You can type in a _ followed by a number up to 1 to 10. The higher the number, the more emphasis will be put on the word. Finally, the last way that you can adjust your prompt is to use negative prompting to remove unwanted details. For example, you could remove the red color from an image. To eliminate more than one element, you just have to separate it with a comma. By the way, all of these techniques work for other image-based AI programs such as DALL-E and Stable Diffusions. The commands might be different, but most of them have the same type of command. However, I like to stick with MidJourney because I think the results are the absolute best. If you need some way to save your prompts, I have a Notion MidJourney template that you can use to store your images. I'll leave a link in the description. To conclude, the key to this technology is to learn and experiment with it. Unfortunately, though there will always be a place for hand drawing and 3D rendering, using an AI tool such as MidJourney will soon revolutionize the way that images for architecture and interior design are produced. In my last video, I described how AI is changing how designers work. I'll leave a link to that in the description. The day when you can type in a command like create a door in SketchUp or Enscape will soon be here. There is no holding back the tide, so we have to make sure that we are on top of the wave. I hope I've given you the confidence to jump into MidJourney and give it a go. Have fun. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.